So at this point, I kind of sound like a broken record. I keep saying Standard's going to rotate, and that's still true. Standard is going to rotate upon release of Into the Emerald Dream. There's currently a Tavern Brawl out right now, but it's actually not playable in Standard yet. But anyway, it's going to be legal in Standard on March 25th, and at the time of this recording, it is March 18th. So 7 days from now, Into the Emerald Dream will be legal in Standard, and Festival of Legends, Titans, and Showdown the Badlands will no longer be legal. We're also seeing a rotation of the core set. There's some new cards coming in, some old cards coming out, all that fun stuff. But the three most recent sets, being Whizbang's Workshop, Perils in Paradise, and The Great Dark Beyond, are completely fine. They're going to be in Standard for the foreseeable future. But for today, I have already highlighted some cards I'm kind of sad to see leave Standard, but today I want to highlight the ones that I am celebrating that they are going out the exit. So to start, I'm going to go over Death Knight and then go in the class order that you usually see, ending with Warrior. So to start with Death Knight, I'm excited for Helya to leave. I know Helya has not been very playable recently, especially with the Zerg stuff being ever so popular. Helya just kind of hasn't fit in the Death Knight decks, but anybody who remembers the height of Control Death Knight knows the pain of Helya, especially if you were also trying to be a slow and grindy deck. Your opponent just always had Helya on 4, and it would just make your life miserable, especially when they start putting more and more plagues in your deck through various other means. I think there's like a 3 mana deal, or 2 mana deal 3 damage, shuffle in 2 plagues. So Helya plus even just one of those is 5 plagues that you just happen to draw way too often. But whenever you put Helya in your deck, it feels like it's in the bottom 5, but your opponents are more skilled and talented than you. So they kind of just find Helya on turn 4 every time, or on turn 3 if they have the coin. Those are the really skilled and talented opponents. Next, we have Pocket Sand for Demon Hunter. Honestly, Demon Hunter is so bad right now, I couldn't find a card that I actually don't like. Because honestly, I don't remember the last time I played against a Demon Hunter, but when I was going through the 3 sets, Pocket Sand seemed to fit the bill. It makes my stuff cost 1 more. It deals 3 damage to anything. That's pretty annoying. But really, Demon Hunter didn't really have anything that was like too offensive, because honestly, the class isn't that great. So Pocket Sand, I guess. Overall, Demon Hunter's bad, and I don't think these 3 sets leaving is going to hurt the class that much. I think the class can only go up from here. So for now, I guess I'm celebrating that Pocket Sand is leaving us for now. It might come back. Not really. Quick Draw is a terrible mechanic. That's the main reason I don't like Pocket Sand. So just because of Quick Draw, get Pocket Sand out of my face. I'm sure this guy would also appreciate Pocket Sand getting out of his face. For Druid, we have ENR, the Lifebinder, and this is not going to be the only Titan on my list of cards that I do not like. Titans in general, terrible design. I'll go on a limb and say that all of the abilities of ENR is just so egregious. I know it costs 10 mana, so like they need to be a little bit more powerful, but draw cards until your hand is full. This is like the weakest one, which just really shows how powerful ENR is. Bountiful Harvest, I think, is the second best one, but if you are an aggressive deck, this is probably the one that you hate the most. And I am kind of known to play aggressive decks. I gravitate towards them because I like to turn my brain off and just play Hearthstone. But the one that is the most powerful, and probably the one that is utilized the most, is Flourish, which is refresh your mana crystals. So all 3 of these are incredibly powerful, and each one of these abilities also comes with a 5/5 with Taunt. So this is an absolute headache for aggressive decks and also control decks, because this is just a bunch of value with either a mana refresh or a complete hand refill. So if your Druid opponent ever has 10 mana and you are fearing of ENR in next standard rotation, just calm down. Titans is leaving, so all the Titans are leaving, and I could not be more excited for this gal and her many, many 5/5 tree fellas to be leaving my beautiful standard format. For Hunter, I guess Hidden Meaning. I couldn't really find a card for Hunter of these 3 sets that really annoyed me quite as much as Hidden Meaning. The reason I don't like Hidden Meaning is it creates something on your turn if you played this. Most secrets trigger on your opponent's turn, so you can kind of react to them, but Hidden Meaning triggers at the end of your opponent's turn if you are playing Hidden Meaning. So it doesn't give your opponent a chance to interact with it, which is great if you are the player of Hidden Meaning, because you virtually get a 3-mana minion with charge that your opponent can't interact with. And that's just incredibly good. And the way that you fall for the secret by ending their turn with no mana on turn 3, because you probably play this on turn 2, that's just gonna happen. So it's really hard to play around Hidden Meaning. And also, the thing that it makes happens on your turn and has pseudo charge. I just don't really like Hidden Meaning. I play with it tons, but I just really don't like the design of it. So I am not going to be crying that this is leaving standard. The next card for Mage is Light Show. And I know Light Show is not a very strong card, and that's exactly why I don't like it. I tried to make this card work way too much, and I always fell short. It just always felt incredibly slow because it's 3 mana and deals very little damage, and it just takes forever to scale it. And also, the way that you build around Light Show is you're trying to discover additional copies, so you're relying on RNG for this thing to be good. And that's just not a very good card. It took me way too long to finally admit that, but Light Show, I love the idea of it, but I kept falling for trying to make a deck with it, so I am very happy to see it go, so it no longer tempts me to make a very bad Light Show deck. And for Paladin, we have our second Titan of the list with Amethyst, and again, Amethyst against aggressive decks feels like an absolute slog because it has that your minions can't take more than 2 damage at a time, and this includes Amethyst herself. And if you buff it up, let's say with a hand buff Paladin deck, you know, the one that was so playable for most of Standard, this thing was usually above 10 health, so it was virtually impossible to kill this thing with minion damage. And if you try to AoE with this thing out, it did pretty much nothing. And I even mentioned the abilities. So the abilities of draw 2 minions, set their attack and health to 2, not too bad, a little bit of value, 7 mana, draw 2, pretty decent. Give your minions +2/+2. Again, that's not that powerful. It's pretty good, but it's not like broken. But Pacified, I despise the Pacified ability of this, because if you buff up Amethyst to have just even 2 attack and use this, it was pretty much a board clear, but only a one-sided one. And even then, Amethyst usually survived. So another Titan, another very powerful 3 abilities, and another very powerful ability that's just stapled on to the Titan itself. Again, I am very excited for Titans to rotate. And to round out my list of Titans on this list, I think this is the last one, Priests, Aman'Thul. Not a surprise. Everybody hates Aman'Thul, mostly because of the Strike from History ability. Choose 2 enemy minions, remove them from the game. You don't just kill them, they are no longer available in the game. While this was a good counter to Zilliax, it was also just very annoying against everything, especially with Priest's many ways to make additional Aman'Thuls. And if you have to face many iterations of Strike from History throughout a game of Hearthstone, you kind of just want to pull your hair out and uninstall the game and just go touch grass. So luckily Aman'Thul is leaving Standard, so I can stay inside and avoid touching the nature, which is always what Hearthstone players want to do. For Rogue, we have Stick Up. Not much to say here. I just don't like Quick Draw, and it always felt like this found the absolute perfect card for every opportunity, because the Quick Draw pool was very small because it only exists in one class. Not many cards had Stick Up, so the odds are your opponent would find the perfect Quick Draw card for the situation. So Stick Up, not a big fan. Quick Draw, very happy that it is leaving Hearthstone very soon. Shaman. It was hard to pick one card from the Shaman class, but I ultimately landed on Backstage Bouncer because whenever this card came out, I just felt so deflated because it would just like target like a totem, which is like a 0/2. So it was virtually a 4 mana. Let me do the math real quick. It would give a totem +4 +3. So it was a virtual 4 mana 8/8. Pretty good. We've come a long way from 4 mana 7/7s. We now do 4 mana 8/8s with no overload. Not bad. And I think this card is like low key the reason Shaman has been so powerful, like as well as like Terran stuff. Terran stuff has also been incredibly powerful, hence the absolute bucket of nerfs they've received recently. But Backstage Bouncer was also a big reason Shaman was so oppressive. And finally, Warriors Boom Boss Throggrun. So when this guy first came out, I thought it was just like a win more control card. But the more I played against the Boom Boss and the more the community played against the Boom Boss, everybody decided that this guy just was an absolute headache to play against because TNTs, if you've never played against Boom Boss, for one, congratulations, you never had the distinct pleasure to have your deck absolutely decimated by these TNTs. They are a cast when drawn spell that are shuffled into your deck, and they destroy a random card in your hand, deck, and board. And they cannot blow up each other, so it would pretty much always blow up 9 cards with just one Boom Boss Throggrun. And oftentimes the control warrior would figure out ways to get this battle cry going multiple times. And if you were an enjoyer of a slow, grindy deck that you would want to brew, and you queued up against Warrior, you pretty much needed to concede because Boom Boss would invalidate any strategy that was trying to go to the late game. And that is my list of cards that I am super excited that are rotating soon. They have been, it's been a pleasure to play against these beautiful cards, specifically the Titans. But I am very ready for Standard to rotate. I think it is going to be a great start to the Standard season, and I am just over the moon that Titans is rotating, so we no longer need to face the likes of Amethyst, Aman'Thul, and especially ENR, the Lifebinder. Anyway, that's all I got for today. If you've enjoyed this video and like to see more Hearthstone content like this, consider subscribing. That would help me out a ton. It would help us also get to that 1,000 total that we've been striving for. And if you want to help me get in front of some more people, a like goes a long way. Anyway, that's all I got. Have a good one.